All right, doing the labs. So when you do the labs, first of all, again, everything in this class is linked here by content. And so the labs are this link right here. So if you click on this image, you'll be taken to the labs module. The labs are done what we call boot camp style, which means we will not be meeting every week. We'll be meeting for a weekend. So we'll be meeting on June 4th and 5th. We'll be meeting at 10 a.m. On the 4th, which is a Saturday. We shouldn't have any issue. The campus is open on Saturdays, but with a note, the campus itself is entirely closed on Sundays. And so we will need to meet very promptly at 10 a.m. If you are late, you will not be able to get in, as the police have to open the building and let us in. And we will discuss where we will meet on Sundays when we meet on Saturday, that previous day. So Saturday at 10 a.m., we'll be working in small groups. One lab you will have to be doing on your own. Please bring a copy of all these labs with you and make sure you have read them. If you haven't read them, it makes the labs a bit on the tortuous side and increases your likelihood for making a lot of mistakes. You have to wear lab appropriate clothing, shoes, and a pair of bring your goggles. The goggles here, I have the link to a site in Amazon. These are fairly comfortable ones, and as you're going to be wearing them for up to about 8 hours on each Saturday and Sunday, you're going to need a nice, comfortable pair of goggles. We will be doing the exact same labs in the NOVA online course as you would do in any in-person chemistry lab. So it's quite a long couple of days. There are also some online labs, and that is in the Pivot Interactives. There are some rules at NOVA, and one is that you have to pass the lab with a 60% or above to pass the course. All right, so that is our lab information. Now, to be prepped for doing the on-campus lab, there are things you also need to do, and you need to do the lab safety. So there's lab safety rules. There are some PowerPoints in here. So go through, read the safety rules, read the assumption of risk. If you are 18 years or older, you're going to sign this form. If you are younger than 18, your parents or you will sign this one, and there's a quiz. You must pass the quiz in order to be able to do the in-person lab. So make sure that is done completely by May 29th, which is the due date. Continue scrolling down are the actual labs. So we have, I think, 6 pivot labs and 8 on-campus labs. With the pivot labs, you will simply come in here. The due dates are embedded, and you will click on the lab. It will take you to the lab in the Pivot Interactives, which you will have purchased. Again, it's like $14 from the bookstore using financial aid, or $10 if you buy it directly from Pivot. And all it is just a nice, very visual look at what's going on in terms of whatever the topic is. With here, this is isotopes and atomic mass. If we go into some other ones, so I'm just going to go back and take a look at a few of the other labs. Some of them are more complicated. And if they're more complicated, you're going to find that they're going to have a video that is embedded. So here with the molar volume of gases lab, if you go into this, there's a video here on how to do the lab. Myself or Professor Vanderson have done a video on these guys, and she'll walk you through how to set up the experiment and how to do your calculations. So those are the pivot labs. Again, follow the due dates on those. And the other thing you're going to have to be able to do as you go through into your labs are there are going to be 8 in-person labs, and they're going to start here as we go down to on-campus labs or in-person labs. The first one is measurements and density lab, kind of like the rest of the labs here. One, make sure you have a copy of this. Copy of this can be on your iPad. If you don't have something that you can actually write and collect data on, make certain that you print out a copy of the lab and bring it with you. So here I've got this lab. Let's see if I can get this thing to download. All right, so once you have downloaded the lab, you will find that it is a complete explanation on what we're doing. For example, the first lab, we're just making measurements. And the purpose of this is not to discover what a ruler is, but to study or think about how you actually make measurements, and particularly with the idea of significant figures. And doing that is discussed with every instrument that is involved. So please do not go directly to the part where you collect data and assume that you know what you're doing. Make sure that you have read all of this, as all of the instructions for each part are embedded here within the lab. For the first, I think, 4 labs, they will be due the weekend that we actually complete the lab. For the remaining labs, which will be done on the 5th of June, they'll be due a few weeks later, as we haven't actually covered the material yet. And so that is going to take us through the labs. If you do not have a pair of goggles, I do have spare ones, although I wouldn't wear them if I were you, because God knows where they've been last. But nonetheless, those are the labs that we'll be doing. The lowest 2 lab scores out of the 6 pivot and the in-person ones will be dropped, with the exception of one, which is a titration of vinegar lab. That is a formal lab report and everyone must complete it. So again, you have to show up for the in-person labs on the 4th and 5th of June. They are boot camp style, meaning we'll be doing multiple labs on the same day, one of the labs of which you will be doing on your own, which is the titration of vinegar. Some of them will be due the same day and some of them will be due a week or so later.